To the right of me is Gilles Vernies, who is the Sciences Po representative for India. Over here I have Sudeep, who is the Senior Education Promotion Officer for Neso, India, which is the education office of the Netherlands government. And to the left of me here is Caroline Gueny-Mentre, who is the Attaché for Scientific and University Cooperation with the French Institute of India. And under this banner falls Campus France, which you may have heard of, promoting the French universities. I'm going to actually just introduce this, from the point of view, I'm going to let them all talk for a few minutes to you about their various perspectives on perhaps what they've done and how they feel each country, should be viewed by you, perhaps. I'll start with Gilles.
Okay, thank you. Well, there are just a couple of points that I wanted to make. I mean, the world in which we live in, the world in which you live in which you're going to study, later on work, is going to be very different from the one even I have experienced. And I've been traveling a lot. I've lived in 5 countries. I've studied in 4 universities in different countries as well. And what it has helped me is to acquire a sense of navigating across different cultural settings. The ability of feeling at ease on different continents with people from different origins and backgrounds. And this is going to be something that will occupy a more and more important place in everyone's life. The world we live in is more and more interconnected, economically, culturally. You have a huge class of people now, say about 400 to 500 million people who spend their life traveling, live in a different country than their own, and this is something that you will be facing also. So our take, I come from the social sciences, the humanities, the liberal arts, and our take on that is that it takes a bit of effort and learning and open-mindedness to get to understand the world in which we live in. And the social sciences have a very vital role to play in that. We believe that social sciences are all pervasive, that they are everywhere, that you may be engaged in a very specialized or technical domain of activity, be it engineering, be it finance, being science or medical, but there will always be an economic dimension to what you do, a legal dimension to what you do, a political context in which you operate, sociology which guides how human beings relate with each other. So the aim of the education that we provide is really to equip you with those tools and disciplines that enable you to navigate. Europe is a good place, generally speaking, to address your studies with that mindset. For the simple reason that it is a continent, it is extremely diverse. There's a huge circulation of students across European universities. There are on a permanent basis 2 million European students not studying in their own country and acquiring new languages and so forth. And these are comparative advantages that you can acquire as compared to those of you, your friends, your peers, your seniors and juniors who will be studying in what I would see more traditional destinations, the US or the UK or Australia. And not only the acquisition of a foreign degree and a foreign tag and so forth, but also an education in a cultural setting which is not familiar, which requires you to uproot yourself, not just physically living elsewhere, but also mentally making an effort to integrate and penetrate another cultural setting. So in the context of Europe, as I said, there's a great deal of mobility existing across universities. You can spend a year in France, you can spend another year in the Netherlands through the Erasmus exchange program. And now these exchange programs have also opened themselves to the world. So in an institution like my own, Sciences Po, we have tried to push that logic of internationalization and diversification to the maximum. We combine social sciences, political science, economics, law, sociology, and so forth with area studies, with the idea that every form of knowledge, every form of human practice is contextualized. It does not happen in a vacuum. And the way worldviews vary from one country to another. So we've combined that with area studies. We combined that with languages. So we understand that language can be seen as a barrier, but we've decided to shift towards English quite a few years ago and help you transition towards other languages, which is going to play an essential part. I mean, think of those of you who will go to the US or the UK, come back with a foreign degree, you will still know English and you will still know the language that you already speak. But go to Europe, travel, take the opportunities that it offers you. You can come back with French, with Dutch, with Italian, Spanish, and so forth. And that gives you a fairly good comparative advantage wherever you go, not just back to India, but wherever you will be working in future.
Caroline?
All right. Well, thank you, Gilles, for this presentation of Sciences Po. Sciences Po is located in Paris, as you may know, as are many other institutes that teach disciplines across all fields. France, indeed, as Gilles was saying, may not be the obvious choice for you. I'm sure you have brothers, sisters, cousins, relatives who've gone abroad already and have chosen English-speaking countries. Truth is, France has changed a lot in the past 10 to 15 years. It's indeed the French education system as it is now is not the one I knew when I was studying. It has become a vastly international higher education system. In a school like Sciences Po, like Gilles, the one he was talking about, I think nearly 50% of the students are international now. Is that right? And nearly 50% of the faculty are not French either. The same goes with HEC, which is the #1 management school in France. And same goes with many, many institutions in Paris, but also outside of Paris. So this is one thing that a French education will provide you. It's a truly international experience. It is, of course, about living abroad, about living in France, and we do hope that you'll pick up our language along the course of your studies, whether you study in English or in French. But it's also going to a door that open to the whole wide world. France is the third country after the US and the UK for international students in the world. And it has been the case for a long time. So France is used to welcoming foreign students with very diverse backgrounds. So trust me, you will feel welcome there. You will find your place. That's one thing, whatever you're studying. France is very strong for management internationally. It's in all the rankings. You must have heard of the names of the schools. Also engineering, pure sciences, and generally any course that you might be looking into you have, there is a school there for you in France. I have a team who work under the name Campus France. They have offices all over India. There are 9 offices. There's one in Delhi, but there's one in Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Kolkata, pretty much everywhere, where you can get counseling. If you're curious about studying in France, about conditions of living, tuition fees, scholarship programs, obviously, then do go to the Campus France offices. It's easy. They're all located in the Alliance Française. Alliance is the Indo-French Cultural Center that you have pretty much in all Indian metros. So do go there and inquire about your prospects in France. What else could I say? I think France is very eager to welcome more Indian students, even though the numbers have been soaring dramatically in the past few years. I think the increase has been 50% in the past 5 years in Indian students going to France. Still, we would like to welcome even more of them. So to mark this openness towards India, a number of visa measures have been taken, and among them, from last July 2013 on, all Indian graduates with a master's degree or a PhD degree, when they come back to India, are eligible to a 5-year circulation visa to the Schengen zone. This means that whenever they plan to go back to France, they get a visa that allows them to circulate for 5 years, okay? 90 days, every 90 days. It's not a work permit, it's not a permanent stay visa, but still it's something that allows free movement between Europe and India. And we do hope it turns out to be as great an asset as we feel it is for Indian graduates with a French education. And this would allow them to go to the Netherlands, of course.
No doubt.
So go ahead. Yes.
I don't know whether you can hear me clearly. Yeah? Okay. How many of you, just to get an idea before we start, how many of you here looking at UG studies? Please put up your hands. School students, you can put up your hands. And how many of you looking at PGs? No one? Okay. How many of you are clear on going abroad? And how many of you have heard of the Netherlands? That's good. Not a bad number. That's what I wanted. Okay, let's start here. As she has already introduced me, we come under the Netherlands government, under the Ministry of Education. Our office is called the Netherlands Education Support Office. It is an office which is headquartered in The Hague, in the Netherlands. The parent body is called Nuffic, and you can find all the information on Nuffic or the Neso on our websites, which are www.nesoindia.org. Now, if I may tell you the USPs of the Netherlands, there are 5. Number 1, all your programs are going to be entirely in English. You don't have to learn any other language to be in the Netherlands. Dutch is the primary language, but if you are there for 3 years or 4 years, you are going to pick up the language very well. When you go from here, you don't need any requirement of any foreign language. When you are there, you're going to pick it up. That is going to give you an added advantage to get a job. After you study, you're going to get a period of 1 year to look for a job, and most of the students do find good jobs there. Now, you're all going for bachelor's studies. Netherlands is very ahead for engineering and for management studies. We have areas like social sciences, humanities, liberal arts, name it. All the programs are there. We have around 1,800 programs in English currently. You know, 2 of the top companies, which is Philips and Shell, are the engineering market in itself. Yeah, we have other companies like KPMG, we have Rabobank, ING, Weissia, Heineken, so many companies, Dutch companies. We have a lot of IT companies which are headquartered in Amsterdam too. So jobs is not a problem. Higher study is not a problem, because once you study your undergraduation study there, it is very easy to go to a master's, get scholarships there and take it on to research. I know these days a lot of students look at research opportunities. So students who are interested in areas like these, please go abroad right in the beginning, because it's going to help you. Now, the second USP, if I may point out, is that in the Netherlands, we have just 14 research universities. Now, anywhere you see in Europe, you have 2 classes of universities, research and applied sciences. Many of you would have seen the difference. In applied sciences universities, they stress more on internships and practical exposure. The research university bachelor's will be for 3 years, applied sciences will be for 4 years. Whichever you want, you can choose, but the research universities will always be in the world rankings. Now, if you ask me the total number of Dutch universities, which are the research universities, we have just 14 of them, out of which 12 are in the top 200 world rankings. This is a ratio which I don't think even any country can boast of. 12 on 14 is a very good ratio, showing that the quality of education of the country is extremely high. Yeah, and after pursuing your study there, it's, as I told you, you can, the degree is going to be recognized through the world. You can travel anywhere. We are going to give you a Schengen visa, which will entitle you to travel through Europe. You can go for transfers, internships, programs, jobs, anywhere in the Schengen region. You have 31 countries in the Schengen region, and Europe is still open to students coming in, people coming in and working there. We require technical people to work in our countries, because it's a population which requires a lot of expats to come in and work. So as they are welcoming to you, I think it's a good opportunity for you to explore this. And for any assistance, you can definitely contact me. I will be available on the website. My contact details are there. Again, I repeat, please don't note down the website. It's www.nesoindia.org. Neso as in N-E-S-O-I-N-D-I-A. Please like us on Facebook at Neso India again, so that you can get details of all the scholarships updates on the Netherlands also. Yeah, it is going to help you a lot in preparing, because I know you're all school students. It might take 2 years for you or 3 years for you to decide on your higher study. So right now, if you can get all the updates, it's going to help you to know the country which you're going to go to. Wish you all the best. Any questions, you can always get back now or later. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to ask you all a quick question. How many of you who are wanting to go abroad for higher education would like to get work experience abroad, or perhaps potentially stay there longer? How many of you sort of keep that as an idea? So perhaps Caroline can first answer this, and then Sudha, perhaps how easy is it to work in Europe? Because as we know, working in the US can be a little difficult. So what is the comparison you could make?
I can't vouch for the EU as a whole because these policies are national, belong to each country. But I can tell you that in France, when you graduate with a master's degree or higher, you're allowed to stay on for 1 year to look for a permanent position after your that corresponds to the kind of studies that you've had. So if you study engineering and you get a master's degree in engineering, you can stay on for 1 year to look for a permanent position in engineering. And during this year, you're also allowed to work, I think it's up to 20 hours a week to support yourself. Which means that you can also get, well, this, little job experience and, while you're looking for a true career. So Indian graduates are obviously very welcome in France, and it's true, I think, even though there are 800 English taught programs in France at the master's degree level, you're more likely to find a permanent position in France if you can speak some French. But you will have time, during your studies and that 1 extra year to brush up on your French. By the way, you know that 50% of the English language is taken from the French, and I'm sure if I had brought a copy of Le Monde or any other newspaper, you could understand, I think, the gist of any article I picked up from it, just thanks to the English that you already speak, okay? So it's not that hard. I guess same goes for Dutch in a way.
In the Netherlands, again, it's 1 year after your after your study. You get a visa, which is called a search period. The search period is going to last for 1 year. And most of the students, I've been working with the organization for 5 years. So currently we have around 1,000 students in the Netherlands. And every year it is going on increasing. The number goes up by 25 to 30% in that range. Yeah? And most of the students, I should say at least 90% of the students don't return back. Because the primary idea for Indian students to study abroad is international experience, which they get there in any of the companies, the big companies. And then after a number of years, they can integrate into the permanent residence and passport and so on. So that is not a problem, Amrika.
So I'm going to move to Gilles with another question, because Gilles, as you may have realized, is sort of an ongoing student. He's a PhD candidate with Sciences Po, but has been living in India for a while. He's also studied in Belgium and France. So I'm going to ask, perhaps you could compare, the student experience in Belgium and France versus what it is here at the higher education level.
Yeah, yes, of course. Well, there was a common thread between all that, is that I've been exploring essentially social sciences, liberal arts, philosophy, and I found that the pluridisciplinary program in which I was in Belgium, for instance, was an excellent training to be really grounded in a set of disciplines. And then the specialization that I could do later on and build on that really helped me to have a refined understanding on how you can look differently at one question. Not only through the angle of different disciplines, you can look at any problem. You can look, say, at climate change through the lens of science, through the lens of economics, through the lens of law, of politics and sociology, and so forth. But studying in different settings also helped me to connect, empathize, and put myself in other people's shoes and look at things from their worldview and be able to compare, and that's extremely important. Language plays a very important role. I mean, I've studied also in different language, and there is this idea that we live in a globalized world, and we know everything becomes more and more standardized, and we make usually the point that it's not because you speak English that you're global. If speaking English, of course, it enables you and I to have a conversation, to understand each other, to speak the same language. But if you really want to enter into someone's mind or into a society's culture and mind, you really need to access access that. The fact that I could study so easily in so many different places was facilitated by the fact that Europe is a collection of countries, but it's also a union. And you have common rules, you have common systems, it's very easy to shift from one place to another. So if you look at Europe as an option, if you look at a specific country, it's not the end of the road, or it's not just you, it may not even be your main destination. Studying in France may take you to France for a couple of years, but then you can end up studying or working in different European countries as well, and actually beyond. 40% of the Sciences Po graduates find their first job outside France. It's not so much that you don't find jobs in France, but it's just that all students are very curious and equipped and able to get opportunity to work literally anywhere. And there's not a large city in the world now where I can travel without meeting, alumni from Sciences Po. So that's a strong advantage.
Thanks, Gilles.